Okay, I'm not sure how much time I'm going to get. This is part two, and where I left off. Just quickly, I'm going to talk fast. I was talking about the fact that targeted individuals, myself, can be connected to all fraud. This fraud being exposed in Minnesota here. This Amy Bach, who was the mastermind behind the fraud that started this whole shebang in Minnesota, was found in my environment over a year ago. I documented this over a year ago, and here this is her family members in this house. Here's my grandkids' house. This is crimes against children. And here this device. I live way over here across town, and it's in my environment on the day that I realized, found out that Amy Bach was the mastermind, and realized that this is her family that I had documented over a year ago. And over again, any of these people, Iliam Omar, anybody related to this, just all these investigations I've been doing, they're all Vance Bolter. I found he killed the Minnesota Melissa Hortman, a politician, and in less than 10 clicks, which I don't even like to go 10 clicks, but found he was related, right, went to the guy that T-boned me. It's this same group over and over again. Iliam Omar and her husband and his investment group right here. Started in Washington, D.C., and like in a matter of a click. Same with this William Haler, who, is, some sort of, was all just in the, all of this is trending on X every day, and all of this money fraud can get tied to targeted people. And again, I'm still receiving. I'm up to about $3 million in medical bills, and I tried to call the FBI just to have my house, buzzed by the military. Just nonstop direct energy weapons. This was my Christmas morning bake, and I had it in the cooler outside on the back porch. And somebody dumped the whole eggs out of my egg bake. I'm surrounded by psychopath serial killer neighbors. My IP is across town at people's houses, and actually, here's the some town in Michigan, Lampier, Michigan, and it's the 911.org right here, 911.org, central dispatch coming in on my infrasound detector. People in Mexico, Canada. Here's the New Mexico Military Training Center, the United States Space Force. Here I was doing this, so these are all unsuspecting victims. I'm doing investigations on every state. Here's Colorado, and the crazy thing is, I noticed that one of the Colorado senators' wives had the same last name as the 84-year-old foster woman that my grandkids had been at, and within like 3 clicks, it went back to this same group again. Their family lines. It's you can't even make this up. I don't even understand. Drones, terrible drone abuse. That was what, 3:40 a.m. I was enduring severe invisible pounding to the head with covert neurotechnology. And the next day, two days in a row, more direct energy weapon burns to my body. So again, I don't know how much time I'm gonna have left. Look at my neighborhood. They're all just, I'm being just pounded with this Ellie Bose. It comes in nonstop. So if you look on my Wiggle War driving, every few minutes, it's a pulse of this sound. They're using sound as a weapon system. Here's the Bose. This is an example of it. Nonstop. Bose. There's Steffi. Steffi is, he lives about a block away and he's a military contractor for General Dynamics. See these nonstop LE Bose. These are all devices. Look at all of these. These are beacons, transmitters, receivers placed in your community. Everybody and their brothers making money off of you. They're all being bombarded into my environment. This is all electromagnetic radiation. It's a slow kill mission. So let me quick go over here because I don't know how much time I'm going to have. And this was an example I wanted to show you. So this is my net monitor, and this is today. And it was 2406 Asbury Drive that's coming in on one of these lethal UMTS mobile ISMI tower catchers, mobile telecommunication towers. He just lives right behind me here. And investigating him, they're from my hometown, and their dad was a police officer from my hometown. And as you can see, this is the street and all of these people coming in and out. And their neighbors, so they live at 2406, and 2407 Asbury is also a police officer from my hometown growing up as a little girl. They actually, a long story, but then not only did he live at 2407 Asbury, but just down the street at also 2411 Asbury. And I don't know if this is his daughter or who, but she also just lives at the end of the corner, which is 3101 Parkwood Lane. And all of them have been documented as coming in with, mobile weaponized devices. And then if you, do further research, click on other places that he lived, and then you can see that it just ties to people throughout your entire life. Like he was, lived with the Gilbertson family, which my grandchildren's grandmother, who passed away before they came along, her maiden name was Gilbertson. I was introduced, I had a family of Gilbertsons that the chancellor of UWS was bringing me out to her cabin when I was about 12 years old, and they were one of the first family I met. And this whole, I believe a lot of my targeting just goes to this group that I met out there. So, again, I call this modernized clandestine MKUltra. And come to find out that in the late 80s, early 90s, just before I moved to Duluth, I lived in this duplex in Superior, Wisconsin. It was a horrible time. My children's father was beating me. And I stepped in a needle. I don't know how this huge needle had gotten to the carpet back then. And now, come to find out, they probably stuck it in the carpet. And then when I was investigating these people and discovered that they lived in the other side of the duplex at the exact same time, and they changed the people search, so I can't bring that up anymore. But they had lived on the other side at the exact same time I was living at that thing. And then a couple days later, they had stuck a fishing hook in the carpet in front of my wash machine. This just happened, not long ago. So, they like to double your they repeat your playbook. And then to come to find out, so this police officer here that lives, next door at the 27, Asbury Lane, right over here down the street from me, he's being investigated as he put a tracker in a woman. So he's a police officer from Superior, my hometown, and he put a tracker in a woman police officer car. She was a nursing mother that was like, pumping her breasts for milk, and he put a police tracker in her car. And so he's being under investigation. And that's these type of people that we're dealing with. I never did anything as a child. All of this is modernized clandestine MKUltra. All of these people are connected. I believe a lot of them are tribes people. They're related to the ICWA worker that took my grandkids, and they've been hunting and watching me and conspiring against our lives for a really long time. Here's my IP. It gets all over the world, just nonstop being hit with direct energy weapons that went way down my back. They hurt a lot more worse than they look. Here's actually, they were hitting my breast in the middle of the night. I had to get up. Let's see. So that's pretty much what's been going on, just nonstop ugliness. I was going to give these, my granddaughters, each a vintage rosary, and they busted them all. They scratch your boots, all my clothes. They kill your plants. This is my breakfast bake for Christmas. They dumped out the eggs. Did I just talk about that? Here's more direct energy weapons to my back. And it's the invisible ones that are, wicked. Here's my holiday chalkboard, and right after I got done just finishing it up, and what comes on the Pandora but Joy to the World by Three Dog Night. You can't even make it up. Here's more direct energy weapon hits to my shoulder. Here they're whipping my back. It's December 20th. So I haven't been on for a month, but it's pretty much the same stuff. Did I talk about, because I've made a couple attempts at recording, and they keep getting cut off, so I'm not sure if I talked about this, but here's my Christmas gift, a Christmas gift for my daughter. Look how the package came. And, and then it was just all scratched and dirty, and that's an expensive gift. It's just disgusting to know that your military has their hands on it, that they're they're shaving off all of my hair here. It's just gross. They cut and shave it and dye it in my eyebrows. It's just, look at how short it is up here. This is how much they cut through the entire thing. It should be all one thick, even length, but they've just go to town on it. And to know that your military has their hands on this is just unreal. It's very sparse on the top, and they shave off the side. It's just sickening. They, hitting my neck. One of the things I endure a lot is that they sew up my clothes, like my bra. I wear double D, and the cups on my bras, they have altered so small that it's probably like a B cup. I mean, everything down to my shoes. Here I am sewing up my underwear. They put holes in my underwear, and I don't have money to buy underwear even. So I'm sewing up my underwear. There's my beautiful ring. You know what they did to that? That's like a $3,000 ring I bought myself at one point, because, I never got a decent a wedding. My husband never bought me a wedding ring. And they took the inside, they cut it out. So there was a backing that's on the inside of where those diamonds lay, and they cut it out so it scratches the inside of my finger. This is just absolutely horrible, and then, when you're out and about, you're human trafficked. And even when I'm not out and about, see, you're not even anywhere near, and they go, da, 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 da. You connect to beacons, 30 miles away sometimes. Here's a good example. Here's a picture. So here I must have been out for Thanksgiving shopping or something, because I see it's November 25th. And I've got a beacon that's connecting to me like 30 miles away. 30 miles away. See that? Same thing. Sewing up my pajamas. I actually sewed up all the holes in my pajamas, and it's just been all destroyed. I don't know if I have a picture on here to show you how bad it is again. So anyway, before I get hurt, yeah, so I wake up and it's just all holes again. My Thanksgiving. I try to still find little things to make me happy. Don't get me wrong. Here's my shorts. These shorts were probably mid thigh, and they have literally cut them so short that if they were any shorter, you'd see my junk. Yeah, it's just sick. These people are sick. This is what the United States military is training our military members to do. Oh, I liked her sweater. So it looks like I was doing some investigations. Again, I've got people coming in all over the world. Look at that. All over the world. You know, some of them are sex offenders to attorneys to, again, police departments to, it's just absolutely horrific. And I'm not sure what else I wanted to talk about. I guess, again, just finding these messages on my granddaughter's phone is very upsetting. It's just sick. Again, I'm, my sick neighbors have beamed these lights at me. I don't know what they are. And citizen collaborators. They're 21st century citizen collaborators. My IP comes in from all over the world. I think here, look at it, it was, where was it that day? It was down by almost the border of Mexico, my IP. So you put where am I, and my IP was way down at the bottom of Texas or something there. See it? So this is human trafficking, it's modern day slavery, it's metaverse crimes, it's geo-slavery. This is me when I'm out and about. This is geo-slavery. I'm tracked, and you can keep track of this yourself. You can hunt the trackers by using these network applications. Oh yeah, that was, I'll tell you about that. I went out so my husband's cousin was in town for the hunting season, and we went out to eat. And it ended up only being myself and my husband and his cousin, his brother, and his dad. And we had just gotten a drink, literally. And, I was turned around facing, like my father-in-law and brother to the right of me. And when I turned my back to grab my drink, it was half empty. It was half empty, and I had just gotten it. And, they gaslit me and said, you know what I mean? I tried not to make a huge scene about it, but I didn't let it go either. I said something. And they're like, oh, yeah, sometimes I forget that I drink it or something. How disgusting to be sitting there with your father-in-law, my brother-in-law, who was a police officer, and my husband, and they sucked down my drink behind my back and gaslit me, pretending like that I didn't know what was happening. And of course, I deal with aerial harassment. It's actually slowed down a little bit. I shouldn't say it to knock on wood, but it doesn't bother me. It makes me sick to my stomach for the children that live around here, or that something might happen. I don't know if I talked about this before, but I made a homemade soup, and to come back to find this much of it gone. I made a pot of chili earlier, a couple weeks before, turned it off so that it could cool down before I potted it up, and half the pot was gone when I came back. Half the pot was gone. So, they have military men that come into your house cloaked or whatever, and it's just gross. It's just gross that the United States of America's turned into a total domestic terrorism operation. And here, yeah, look at that. So Here's my granddaughter. So, we're the ones that have been abused. Here's my neighbor swinging at me. And I love this picture. Look at the picture look at that guy. Look at both of their faces. So I was coming out of a store and was recording, and this is what I captured. That is an absolute, priceless picture. Isn't that gross? Downtown computer, he's flipping me off. And here I am at the Grandma Sports Garden, volunteering at the Grandma's marathon. And I think that I didn't really know about the targeting yet. I was just finding out. This was early 2000, I think 18 or 19. And I actually had been crying shortly before that because I had been being assaulted with direct energy weapons. And the next thing you know, I've got a whole group of Department of Homeland Security guys hanging around my tent. That guy sat in the tent with me that entire day. And, a lot has come to pass since then. They killed my girl Roxy. There I am with my girl Roxy before she died. And here's my daughter, Chelsea. They made her homeless. They put her in prison for 5 years for almost nothing. And this whole group now, I've found is, again, colluding and conspiring behind my back. And, they put their children in your lives and bring you down the wrong path. And that's what they do. I begged social services and the police department. They were letting her hang out at this old man's house that was letting them have drugs and alcohol at an early age. And that's exactly what they did to me. And I begged them, and come to find out that they're all this group of people. And look at her, she's crying. I hate my life. And here's me. That's a funny picture. I was at Willie Nelson's concert here in 1983, and I had just watched the Willie Nelson being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And my friend sent that to me out of the blue. She didn't know I was watching it. Anyway, then Willie Nelson came about this last year or so, and I took that picture, and I had a T-shirt made up, and I wore that T-shirt to the concert. And here I am, and I know I've talked about that. I got hit with direct energy weapon in the back and put it into chat GPT for them to tell me that it was likely a direct energy weapon. And here's my sick neighbors. They named their house "You Deserve It," and those people live behind me. And then if you look in who lives at that address, it's the guy that lives directly next door to me, Paul Carlson, and then also my husband's first cousin, who was one of the first people that I found when I began to use these network applications. And here's other direct energy weapon, burns and hits to my body that they lasered a hole in my leg and in my neck and a big burn on my back. And I have like twice or 2 or 3 times the amount of that hair. My hair just comes out in globs. They actually tie it up, and this is my daughter's feet. They tied it up and left it in knots for me to find. And then you're at the gas station, and the guy next to you has got a license plate that says Zap. And then again, these are the beams coming from my neighbors. And then, of course, they have to put, I think that none of this would work. It's the chemicals in these chemtrails that they pour out your house. So, when you're outside, they want to spray so that they can induct a better connection to your body. But anyway, anything else? I just wanted to wrap up the year, touch base, let you know I'm still alive, I'm still kicking, I'm still fighting. I'll be fighting till the bitter end. Oh, this was a good one. Here I had been, actually had been hit in the eye. So it was December 19th. So I was enduring, invisible and visible direct energy assaults. I wrote that I also ate tainted leftovers, and it burned my mouth and chest, and my entire back whipped and burned. And then, I turned on and then I also had a painful stab to the eye. So that's what prompted me to turn on my infrasound detector to find, the Playas, New Mexico Military Training Center. I believe this was St. Petersburg, Russia. I've got one coming in from Mexico. And then, of course, the United States Space Force. And I'm not sure who else. So then I also in the United States. So I investigated the one in the United States. So get this. So I had a beacon coming in from 2205 Carlos Street, St. Moss Beach, California. And unbelievably, not only did they immediately connect, so they lived in like Minnesota, Wisconsin. So they immediately connected to people up here in Minnesota. And then it went to, this same lifelong group that makes my family's oppression, torture, a business plan. But not only that, but he's an electronic optical engineer. That's what he is. And I had just gotten stabbed in the eye, and he's an electronic optical engineer, and he also had a past military history. You can look him up in LinkedIn. I found him in LinkedIn. Yeah, it's just amazing. Oh, I got a beacon coming in from Green Bay, Wisconsin. He's got two, and not only does his address, like if when you go to like the Google map, it says something like he's some sort of government agent or something, but in a matter of just a couple clicks, he comes back right to Minnesota, and these P.O. boxes, they're using these P.O. boxes and they're telling a story. It's proving an organized crime ring. And he came back to Superior, this beacon from Green Bay. So there's my pajamas. So I sewed up all my pajamas, and then that's what it looks like again. So, how disgusting to wake up. They knock you out with radio frequency, and to wake up with holes in your underwear and your pajamas. And there again, I've got this Steffi. He lives straight up north of me, about a block. And, he, right there. So, People Search indicates my newer neighbor, Steffi, intruding my environment, is a milling contractor for General Dynamics, which I found in my Wireshark data packet capture. And he also lived with Bo Fleming. So this is, I had a visual trace route of, connections to me, and it went to this Department of Homeland Security guy's house. So he found that they lived together, and, found out in my network he also lived with Bo Fleming, Department of Homeland Security employee that I find we directly route to his home in Ashburn, Virginia, him to China South Bank and back to the Department of Defense. His mom's name is Fleming Davis, and my married name is Fleming. And here I was buzzed. I thought it was a snowblower. My whole house was shaking, and it was a Swarovski Blackhawk going over my house. And here, this tells you about, yes, prolonged exposure to infrasound can be fatal, and that it's the RAF Essentia Island, the target tracking radar station, the United States Space Force right there. And then here's the Playas, New Mexico Military Training and Research Center, and tells you what they research. It's disgusting that they're attacking women and children. Okay, this is getting to be a half an hour. And, here's my neighbors again. I'm surrounded by serial psychopath people. And that's what they're letting happen in every community. It's not just me, and that's why I'm fighting. I'm fighting for humanity. Here again, this guy in Superior, I came across this guy that was sexually abusing girls at a Duluth church. and the pastor didn't report it. He made the girls that were being sexually assaulted take an apology. They made the guy that was sexually assaulting them hug them, and the guy, the pastor's name is Bruckelmeyer, who I have, that's, I had did a post on him before, that I was being assaulted at Target. I had got hit hard in Target, and literally the device, it was a Nordic semiconductor or something, and I went right from his house right to where I was standing in Target. I could pick that up on my Wiggle War driving application. Here, my whole shoulder was being burnt. Did you see that? And then, documenting the fact that, this Joy Womack did a thesis on targeted individuals. You can look this up. Purdue University, marked as dangerous, an investigative analysis of no-touch torture on targeted individuals. That's a very good document to have. And here again, here's a beacon coming in from a psychiatric hospital in Germany. It's called Warendorf, whatever. It's a psychiatric and psychotherapeutic hospital coming in from Germany. And here all over the United States, everybody, and Canada, Alaska. See that? How many beacons I got coming in? And then again, South America and all over the world. It's just, this is brutal. It's a brutal thing that's happening to people here. So I'm going to quit. But here's another. I had a new friend on Facebook, and I was a quick investigation based on the information that she posted. She was talking about who she believed something about who she was targeted by. And I looked him up, and I found that he had a plethora of DoD contracts via weapons systems, and he immediately connected from Oregon back to Minnesota to the same Lifeline group that I connect to. And I'm finding all of this in People Search. I can't stress enough how People Search is. Who'd have ever thought something as simple as People Search are telling a story and it's evidence, and it's my same group that I find repeatedly over and over. The guy that T-boned me supposedly because he was a high-speed chase because he hit and ran a car at the parking lot of Walmart, which is, we all know now, baloney. It's attempted murder. This is all attempted murder. These are all devices intruding my environment, death by Wi-Fi. Easier than using a bullet, lucrative if you have an identity fraud scheme. More medical bills. I'm over $3 million. Here's, human code biohacking patent W2020-060606, cryptocurrency system using humans who have been shipped as minors. I shit you not, John McAfee. That's an actual quote from John McAfee. And, that's what this whole targeting Cybertorture Watchlist scheme is about, and I connect to all. This is all Minnesota fraud. I mean, here's a guy that recently was in the news in Solon Springs, Wisconsin, for setting his restaurant on fire. I found him a long time ago. I have a beacon coming in from a guy in Richfield, Minnesota, on this infrasound detector that connects to all these, a business owner that I believe that my sister, actually, when I was like 8 or 10 years old, hitchhiked with me to a bar in Duluth, Minnesota. And I believe it's all connected. And then he also was connected to, one of my besties from childhood, her family, and that's in the Solon Springs area. And again, all of this, I can't, anything that's happening, more feeding your future defendants connected to the same group. Any investigation I did, and actually they just had another fire up in Lutsen Resort. The guy owner burnt up the Lutsen Resort. I connected him to this, a long time ago. Again, I talk about the fact that when I first started using these applications, The first two people I found on these applications was my husband's cousin, Curtis Davis. And he lived with this Jim Carlson, who was, sentenced to 17 years in jail for some sort of drug something at his store. And Biden, let him out of jail, clemency. And, it just goes on and on. My best friend, another best friend, I found out her brother and sister worked for Medtronics and had a beacon coming in from down the road, and he shared a phone number with this best friend, and he worked for the NASA in remote sense heterodyning. That was his career. And again, they're just talking about, all this Minnesota fraud, and I have just a ton of evidence on it. So here, see, this is Amy Bach. This is all the Amy Bach stuff. My grandkids' house. It's just disgusting. So, I guess I could go on and on. I can't stress enough to document everything. If you can, use computer forensics to prove what is happening. Go back to the first video and what I read that Bobby wrote from Canada. Here's a couple different hospitals. Here's kind of irregular. It doesn't come in all the time, but I've seen them several times. Fillmore Hospital in New York. And here was another one, Bronson Methodist Hospital. Very scary. You wonder if you've got a disease process in the works, which, most likely I do. And here's all the different military contractors or militaries that I have found using forensics. I found a DOD certificate in my computer, and, here's Steffi, and you go down the road and there's the FBI and the NSA and the CIA surveillance vans as you go down the road, because this little chunky 63-year-old woman that spends most of her time in her little kiddie pool on the deck is such a threat. It's just awful. And as Catherine Horton and William Binney say, it's not surveillance. It's not if you have anything to hide or fear, but can you or your family become a business plan? And that's exactly what this is all about and what happened to my family, or again, my neighbors. Okay, I will close by saying, Happy New Year. Try to find little things to make you happy. I really do. It takes little things like, I got flowers, little things. I get flowers and they make me happy. And I listen to a heck of a lot of music and they make me happy. And I find little videos about animals and things that make me happy. And I carry on. I carry on with God in my heart. See, here it is. I had this shirt on when my sister hitchhiked with me. I remember standing against this wall, and I found that this guy coming in. So I have a whole street of them, but this guy was the first one right here. This James Connell, and he's some sort of financial planner, and I found him connected not only to my business owners that they own bars, since I was going in his bar since before I was 18 years old. But this bar my sister hitchhiked with me to. I don't remember coming home, but this is how small I was. I had that dress on as a shirt when she hitchhiked with me to this bar. And these are the same people that I find over and over. And then here I am with a picture that I found on the internet, and that was me. This is me, and this is the UWS's chancellor's daughter. And it's the people that she introduced me to going out to her cabin that I feel like are at the helm of making us a business plan. I want to try to click on this square if I can get it. So again, a little bit, I'll close with this piece of my story. When I was in 7th grade, I should have went to the middle school, but for some reason they diverted a chunk of our class to a wing of the University of Wisconsin Superior's campus. And at that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger was on campus, and we all know he ended up being good friends with Jesse. They both went on to be governors. Here's Jesse, came to my town. He was in the Cove Cabaret. I was front and center. I took that picture. And, you know, the story is that Arnold owned a house up on Highway 61 here in Minnesota, which I supposedly, I paved. We paved. I worked for a blacktop company in the early 90s, and we paved a driveway that supposedly was Arnold's house. And, you know, I don't believe that any of that is coincidence. You know, I've repeatedly found school teachers. As a matter of fact, here it is. So I repeatedly find school teachers in my, I call it social mapping. And one of the teachers that I repeatedly found was an art teacher. And I had him in both like 5th grade and 7th grade. And he drew me in both years. And I still have the pictures. So, you know, this hidden mesh network has really put the pieces of the puzzle together for me. And I believe it helps all targeted people. And here's a device in my environment called sensor data. And here's my daughter. You know, my daughter, they make her hear her children being raped and tortured in holograms too. She has a barbaric case of the voice to skull. And to think that, you know, this is your family and your friends and your community members, people that have children that do this. Here's my IP coming in from where? I'm not sure. Where was that? Mississippi? I think that says Mississippi. Oh yeah, it was right by a, it was in between a law enforcement and a hospital. So Hattiesburg, Mississippi. And so up here was the some sort of first responders, and down here it was a whole collage of medical facilities. So that was December 8th, my IP. Okay, well, I could talk about this same stuff over and over. Well, here's a few photos. These are all the places that I go the most when I do leave the house. So this is my house. And this is Sam's Club. And that must be Walmart. And here I am up at the cabin. There's only 12 properties on the cabin. Look at, you can see it when you look on Wiggle War Driving. Well, here's my grandkids' house. There's the cabin. There's me at the cabin at the lake. And here I take my grandkids on a camping trip every year to the KOA. And you can see, so I had a camp spot here one year. And, you know, the different spots. One is the pool. There's a pool. And I had a camp spot there. And that was last year right there. And that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. Smart contracts, targeted individuals, watch list scheme, extrajudicial killing. And then, yeah, I have so this is a beacon in the backyard of someone. And when I'm up at Target, hundreds, thousands, they just go da-da-da-da-da. And this is actually the cemetery does too. And I can't keep up. I can't keep up with documenting all of this work. I do the best I can. I try to have a balance to some degree. I don't go at it as hard as I used to. It's exhausting. Here I am at the Sundance Square building near Fort Worth, Texas, Public Safety and Courts building. And if you look, the Sundance Square building, I believe, is, you know, owned by some really rich people. Like, I think it was like the Bass family or something. Here's the mayor of I said, I don't care what striped badge office you hold. So I did an investigation on Jacob Fry, and it actually had in Virginia, and then he went to Madison, and then right up to Two Harbors and Rush City. That's where my brother lived. A lot of people, they hide out in these little small towns around your communities. I have it's astonishing, and People Search tells it all. I mean, you can look at an address, and it can be this little community down, say 60 miles from your main city, Superior or Duluth. So outlying Two Harbors or Siren or Danbury, and they're hardly incorporated with people at all. And then somebody's got somebody living at their address that came from Georgia or Texas or New York, or it just tells a story. And here's a missed phone call that connected the guy to the Pentagon and Robert Duncan. So I missed a phone call, did a research on it, and it went to the Pentagon and Robert Duncan. Tim Lord, can't make it up. Can't make it up. Missed call today. More medical fraud. So I'm on Twitter. Oh yeah, so this is the guy here that was just in the news for burning up the Lutzen Lodge, and one of the guys listed at living there, this Tim Anderson, lived at this house and at this apartment building. And look, there's somebody at that apartment building that is being attacked. Okay, I'm going to log off. My husband's home. Happy New Year. Stay strong. Stay safe. Over and out.